All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another Student of the Gun Radio. Welcome. I hope you enjoyed Monday's episode. If you didn't, send a self-addressed stamped envelope to Post Office Box 405, Boulder, Colorado, for a complete refund of Monday's purchase price. You can always do that. What are we going to talk about today? We're talking about mosquitoes and how to make them go away. How to make mosquitoes fornicate in a different direction. Right? We all want to do that, right? Some of you scumbags out there don't get bitten by mosquitoes.
Me.
Yeah. Really?
Yeah, they don't like me. You know why? It's because they smell my testosterone and they're like, I got to get away from this dude.
But for the rest of us who are bothered by mosquitoes, I'm going to tell you what to do. All right? We've got a homeroom for you. Not a homeroom. I'm sorry. We already did the homeroom, right? No. What am I talking about? Yeah, we got a homeroom from Crossbreed.
Yeah.
Universal safety rules apply in your home. Get it? Homeroom. And then we're going to do a book study. We did a book study on Friday? Or
let's go with
Thursday?
Yes.
It was one of those.
But we're going to dive into this book, and we're going to talk about this is a compilation. It's The Art of War. Sun Tzu's Art of War, as translated by Stephen F. Kaufman, and it's broken down not into chapters, but into books. Book 1, Book 2, Book 3. And we're going to talk about Book 4, Si Cuatro. All that and more on today's episode of Student of the Gun Radio.
Yeah.
Stand by for education, enlightenment, enjoyment, and entertainment.
He's not here to talk about your feelings. He's not here to say what you want to hear. He's here to say what needs to be said.
Ladies and gentlemen, and children of all ages, please welcome your host, the pimp hand of America, Professor Paul Markle.
Yes, indeed you do. Oh, man. I tell you what, a lot of stuff going on, a lot of good stuff going on. We've got the books out. Well, I've got the Legion of Michael book. And if you're not a part of the Legion of Michael, go to legionofmichael.com. That is a comprehensive, detailed church security program. Now, right now, it looks like, let me see. I went to legionofmichael.com. And enrollment is currently closed.
Yep.
But fear not. Don't cry. Don't feel bad. All you have to do is put your name and your email address in there. Click the little thing that lets us know that you're not a robot.
Wait, hold on.
What?
This episode releases on the day that enrollment opens. So enrollment will actually be open when you hear this.
Oh, okay.
July
well,
15th, 2020, enrollment of Legion of Michael is open.
All right. Well, good. Get in on it. If you are a member of a house of worship and you're looking for a comprehensive, very thorough how to set up, implement, and organize a church security program, we've got that for you. And we also have a book called Legion of Michael, and a lot of you guys want to sign copies, and they will be coming. And I can tell you this, because of the Rona, the Kung Flu panic, the book printers have been running behind. Normally, we can get books relatively quickly, not immediately, but it doesn't take a month for a book order to be processed. And unfortunately, that's what's going on right now. But we will in the future have direct signed copies. And Jared has decided that we will offer the Legion of Michael book to Legion of Michael or enrollees. So
Yes.
if you go to legionofmichael.com, enroll in the course.
Pick the book. There's 3 separate books, I believe, that are on the same topic as Legion of Michael. You can pick between one of the books, or you can add all 3 to the order.
There you go.
Which is what I recommend doing.
Oh, good
Because
stuff.
the more books, the better.
And don't forget to support our good friend, Nicholas Orr. Nicholas Orr wrote a new book. It's called Sin City, The Operator Book 2. He wrote the book The Operator. It is fiction. This is a fiction novel, and it's a little bit of action and adventure and some romance thrown in for everybody, for wives and husbands and everybody. Not for the kids. It's for big people. You can get that on Amazon.com as a Kindle or a paperback version. So if you're looking for a little bit of mind candy, something to take your mind off of the nonsense that's going on in our world, go ahead and pick up Sin City, the new book by, and now yours won't say, I'm very close friends with Nicholas Orr, so he sent me a proof copy of the book before it was actually available to the public, because I am a VIP like that. Does that sound good?
Yep.
It sounds good because I'm a VIP. So I was able to get a preview copy of the book. So it's out there. Go ahead and pick it up. And if you've already bought it and read it, leave a review, you freaks. Give our friend Nicholas Orr, show him some love, man. Yeah, show him some love. All right, let's do our Brownells bullet points of the week. Yeah. Boom. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Brownells is all about shooting and hunting and going out, right? So you say, I like to shoot. I like to hunt. I like to go out in the wild. And I take all the various stuff that I bought from Brownells.com, I take it and I go out. Well, it's summertime. And what does that mean in 99% of the United States of America? That means mosquitoes. And biting flies and all these nasty, basically anything that bugs you in the wild. You can continuously douse yourself with off or DEET or whatever. As somebody who bugs are very attracted to, my whole life mosquitoes. I don't know what it is about me. But they smell me and they want to be near me and they want to bite me, and then they leave bites on me, and it's a royal pain in the rump, and it's not fun. So, and I've also noticed that I can douse myself with the bug spray continuously, and it just sweats off or it dries off or wears off, and they're back. They're in my face and so forth. Several years ago, I was introduced to this product called Thermacell. Thermacell, right? Essentially what it is it's a device that's a butane. You get a little butane cartridge, you stick it in there, and it has a little blue pad. And this pad has, I don't know what it's got on it, but it's made out of material that makes mosquitoes fornicate into a different direction. They don't like the smell of it. It annoys them. It bothers them, whatever. The thing is, I don't care. Here's what I know. It works. This crap works. All right. It works better than off. Where do we used to live, Jared? Or Zach, or whoever?
Biloxi,
Biloxi,
where there were a ton of mosquitoes.
Yeah. So, most of you guys who live in the north, northeast, northwest, or whatever, you're like, well, we have mosquitoes 3 months out of the year, 4 months out of the year. They're a problem. In Biloxi, they're a problem like 11 months out of the year, right? So we got really well acquainted with dealing with mosquitoes. And you try and you burn the citronella candles and they don't work. And you get those little torchy things from the dollar store and you're like, oh, that'll work. Or those little rubber band things that you wear around your wrist. That crap doesn't work. I would know when the Thermacell cartridge, when it would run out, because I'd be sitting on the porch having a cigar or whatever, reading a book, and all of a sudden a mosquito land on me. I'm like, what the farfignugan? Pick my Thermacell up. It's empty. The whole time, nowhere near me. And as soon as it ran out of juice or whatever, boom. My dear departed friend, James J., he said that once he discovered Thermacell, he bought 2 of them. He put them in his hunting pack, and he threw all the other crap away. He said, I always have 2 of them. When I turkey hunt, when I whatever. And that's a lot of turkey hunters have said, yeah, in the fall when it's cool and crisp and cold, and once the frost is hit, they're not a problem. So a guy in a deer stand in November is like, I don't care, mosquitoes. There are no mosquitoes here. But a dude in a stand during turkey season, like especially spring turkey, like, oh yeah, now it's warm and there's mosquitoes. Our good friend Charlie Brown He said that when he goes turkey hunting in Florida, after those big, what are the big turkeys in Florida? They're famous. They have a specific name. They're the
I don't know.
I can't think of it.
The gobble gobble turkeys.
No. Florida wild turkeys. Everybody they rave over these Florida wild turkeys because they are the Osceolas. Yes, the Osceolas, the Osceao, the Osceola turkeys.
Okay.
Yep, they go after those down there in Florida. Very popular thing to do. And you say, well, and you might be out there thinking, duh, Paul, I've known about Thermacell for years and I use it all the time. And I'm with you. But it amazes me that I'll talk to people and they're like, what? When is this a new thing? Well, when did it come out? And I'm like, brothers and sisters, this has been out for a while. The other day, I went into a hardware store and I said, hey, I need a refill kit for my Thermacell. Do you have it? And they're like, what's that? The people who run the hardware store, who have a great big end cap display of off bug spray and little stupid wristbands and little stupid candles that don't work and all that. And they're like, no, we never heard of that, bro. What are you talking about? I'm like, brothers and sisters, you're in the retail game. You got to know about this stuff. Mm-hmm. So I hipped them. I'm like, here's the deal. I went to Thermacell's website, and they actually have a bunch of new products that I didn't know they had. So they don't sponsor the show, but here's the deal. They make good stuff. And if you guys are really serious about survival and self-sufficiency and so forth, one of the things that we've been recommending, and I recommended this years and years ago. Remember when we did the hurricane survival video? We did a YouTube video about hurricane survival. You guys remember that?
Were you on the back of the truck there?
Yeah, about on the back of the truck. Yep. And I said about what stuff you need to put in this bag. And I held up the Thermacell, and I said, put this in there. Because what do we know what happens after a hurricane? Power goes out. It's super hot because it's summertime. Mm-hmm. So you don't want to be inside of a house that has no electricity, no fans, no AC or whatever. So you're outside. And who else is outside? Mosquitoes. Oh, another thing that occurred to me the other day, most communities in mosquito areas have what? What does the community do? What does the village or the city do?
Oh, they spray for the
right.
They have a nightly sprayer or a weekly sprayer or something like that.
Yeah, you know you can hear them. Remember when we were in Millersburg?
I thought you were asking about an event that happens. I'm like, I don't. What?
No. Remember we were in Millersburg?
Yeah.
And it would be just before dawn. You'd hear like, and it would get louder, and you knew what it was. It was a mosquito truck driving through town, right? So they do that to mitigate mosquitoes in the village, in the city, in the town that you're in. What happens in the event of a calamity, a disaster, or whatever? Where does that mosquito spraying go? It probably goes to the bottom of the list, right? Because they got all kinds of other stuff to worry about. So if they're not doing that, what are you doing? And you're like, well, I don't care. I mean, you just slap them or whatever. But the problem is, though, mosquitoes carry viruses. Yeah, they do. If you don't know anything about the history of mosquito-borne illness and the hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people who have died from mosquito-borne illnesses, the malaria. That the number one cause of malaria was mosquito bites. Number one cause. And for years and years, they couldn't figure it out. I mean, the U.S. Army did studies. They're like, why are these guys all getting malaria? You know, what's going on? And they figured out, mosquitoes. Yeah. So they're bad things. Keep them away from you, brother. The Zika, the West Nile, all that stuff that's spread by mosquitoes, you want to keep it away from you. And really, I'm telling you what, I'm testifying, and I want to help you. I love you guys. I want you to live a good life. And when you're out, you said, I went to Brownells and I got my this, I got my that, and I'm going to go out in the field. Great. You can't shoot mosquitoes with your 30-06. I mean, you could try.
That's you just grab a shotgun with some birdshot and you're good. You don't need to worry about the mosquitoes.
It's an expensive way to get rid of mosquitoes. I'll just shoot them. Yeah.
We got Rocker Ryan is on the YouTubes watching the live show right now. He wants to know. He says, "I've got my Thermacell. You've got to have one down here." I guess he's on the East Coast. He wants to know if you guys got. I didn't see this, but if I don't know if one of you did. There's an email sent about a tragedy with his friend.
Yeah,
we did get it. Okay.
Rocker Ryan, send us a corroborating news story. Send us a link so that we can share that.
A linky link.
A linky link. Yeah. All right, Duracoat, because why?
Life's too short to have an ugly guitar.
Yeah, an ugly guitar, an ugly gun, an ugly knife, an ugly can.
Yep.
You want to have a sexy can, right?
Yep, for sure.
Everybody wants to have a sexy can. And there's actually a hamo tag. There's a hashtag ammo can art. If you go to Instagram, look up ammo can art. And you're like, oh, I didn't look at all that. That's cool. People are getting creative and doing cool stuff. Yeah, exactly. Check that out. So if you want to be cool, hip, have a not ugly gun, a not ugly can, a not ugly guitar, whatever, go to DuracoatFirearmFinishes.com. And I will give you guys a hint. A lot of you guys listening may run gun shops, right? If you run a gun shop and you've had people come in and say, hey, can you refinish this? And you've kind of been like, I don't want to get into that because it's a pain in my butt or whatever. No, you're thinking about it the wrong way. If you run a gun shop, a local gun shop, and you've had people come in, and even if you haven't, the fact of the matter is you should check out Duracoat University, the Duracoat University. Go there, and I guarantee you that within a month or two, probably a month, wouldn't you say, Jared? If they paid to go to Duracoat University, got the training, paid for their lodging and all that, come back, they could easily make that money back in a month.
Yeah.
By refinishing guns.
Yes.
Doing custom gun finishes and
Absolutely.
So forth. Yeah. So if you're a brick and mortar shop and you're looking for a way to make some extra money or to help if you had customers, you're like, hey, can you do this? And you're kind of putting them off or whatever. Brothers and sisters, you're missing out. You really are. And that's one of the great things about Duracoat versus other products is they have a dedicated physical place that you can go and learn from the experts how to do it. And what did we learn when we went, Jared? It's not just about the coding. You also learn how to run a business.
Yeah.
You learn how to do there are trade and business recommendations that you wouldn't get from watching. You're like, oh, I can just watch a YouTube video and figure out how to do it. You can't watch a YouTube video and get 40 years worth of business acumen.
Yeah. That's like, it would be like having the opportunity to go to a live training seminar with somebody like John Farnham or, people like that have been around for a while, Ken Hackthorne, or choosing to watch the internet version instead. Where when you're in the actual training class, you can walk up to that dude and say, hey, what do you think about this? And they give you live feedback. Now, while online training is definitely valuable, it just isn't the same thing. You can't get the same value out of it as you can for with the live training.
Well, that's like you could go to our store. You can go to shopsotg.com and get the training video, the Rifleman 101, or you can come here.
Yeah. Actually
sit at the master's feet. So check out DuracoatFirearmFinishes.com. End of story. SWAT Fuel wants you to have a stronger body, a sharper mind. Right now, quit making excuses, freak. Go to SWATfuel.com. Use the promo code SOTG. Now that you've done that, listen to what Zach has to say to you, freaks.
ShopSOTG.com is the perfect place to go if you are a student of the gun. Whether you want to expand your brain, increase your marksmanship, or help keep your family safe. All that plus the Pin Pan brands that you love. ShopSOTG.com has almost anything that an American patriot would want. Education, enlightenment, and entertainment, and we're open 24/7. Check out ShopSOTG.com today and see for yourself.
All right. We're going to do a homeroom, and, I'm going to reference what our friend, the Rocker, what Rockin' Ryan Rocker, what did you say?
Rocker Ryan.
Rock, yeah. We're going to reference that. So, Zach, go ahead and cue up the Crossbreed Holster Student of the Gun homeroom music. Boom. Madison Rising. Dangerous. You want to be dangerous on demand, and you got to do that by carrying a gun. But a gun is a dangerous thing. Before I get into that, use the promo code SOTG18. Save yourself money. Upgrade your holster when you go there. So, all right. You guys know to do that. All right. A gun is a dangerous tool. It's supposed to be dangerous. A gun that's not dangerous is worthless. A gun that's not dangerous is, I don't know, a doorstop or a paperweight or whatever. Guns are supposed to be dangerous, just like chainsaws are supposed to be dangerous. You wouldn't give a 5-year-old chainsaw and say, hey, go out back and cut some wood for me, would you? No. Or you wouldn't give a 15 or a 16-year-old a chainsaw, just say, oh, go out in the garage, find the chainsaw, start it up, and go use it. If you do that, you're an irresponsible douche, because that kid needs training and he needs to understand what he's doing so he doesn't hurt him or herself, right? Exactly. Firearms. The universal safety rules apply in your home, not just on the range. I see this time and time again. People are like, oh, well, safety rules are for the range. When you're training and when you go to the range and there's rules on the wall and they're rule. And that's where we do it. Yeah, that is where you do it. But it's also everywhere. Anywhere that you are and then there's a gun in that same place, whether it's your car or your bedroom or standing in the parking lot or wherever, the universal safety rules apply. And you need to understand that these rules are there for your safety, not when you're 100% switched on. Okay? The reason that we harp on the universal safety rules all the time is because they're there to help you not do something dumb when your brain is foggy, when you're tired, when you're annoyed, when you're not feeling good, when you're just going through the motions. Because when do negligent discharges happen, Jared? Do they happen when people are on the range with their guns out pointed at the target? No. I mean, when you have the gun, you have a target, you've loaded it, you're like, okay, I'm going to shoot that target. Very, very rarely is that the time when there's a negligent discharge. What did Farnham say about negligent discharges and when they almost always, like 95% of negligent discharges happen during what?
Holstering or putting the gun away.
Administrative.
Yeah,
he likes to use the term administrative.
Yeah.
Right? Administrative handling of guns. I mean, people don't have NDs when they're engaging in a fight, right? I mean, generally not, right? 95% of all negligent discharges happen during administrative handling. When you're not meaning to shoot, when you're just holding it, loading it, unloading it, holstering it, unholstering it, putting it here, putting it there, so forth. That's when it happens. And how do we prevent that? Treat every gun as if it's always loaded all the time, right? Never put your finger on the trigger until your sights are on the target and you've made the mental decision to fire the gun. Know your target, what's around it, what's beyond it, right? And what's the other one? What's the one I didn't just say? Starts with an M. Zach, you can jump if you want. Never let the
Muzzle.
Muzzle. cover anything you're not willing to destroy, right? You say, well, I always do that, Paul. Yeah, you always do that. How many of you have ever gone, as your gun carrier, at the end of the day or the beginning of the day or whatever, you're in your bedroom, or maybe you're in a bathroom. Maybe you're in a bathroom and it's time for you to number 2, right? And it's your own bathroom. It's you know, you don't have to worry about hiding the gun, but you don't want to drop trowel and be pulling on and off, right? So what do? You take the gun out of your pants. How do you handle it? Where do you put it? Do you think about where you put it? Do you think, hey, yeah, I'm in the bathroom, but on the other side of that wall is one of my family members, or potentially? Because let me tell you what, brothers and sisters, interior walls made of drywall in your house don't stop bullets. They barely slow them down. So you're like, oh, well, I can't see who's in the other room or whatever, but there's a wall between me and them, so that is the wall will keep them safe. No, it will not. So you have to think, when you're picking these things up, when you're setting these things down, where is the muzzle indexed? And that might be a time when you just turn the muzzle a different direction. Let's say you're standing at your dresser, and your dresser, the wall behind your dresser is actually butted up against the bathroom. And you're there, and you're going through your process, and on the other side of that wall is or could be a family member in the bathroom, right? Or let's say it's a kitchen or whatever room, doesn't matter. So instead of pulling your gun out and indexing it towards the wall, you pull it out and you lay it down sideways or in a different direction, or a direction where there's not another person, or there wouldn't be another person. And something else we've got to stop doing, and I see this and it drives me mad because it's an accident, and part of the reason it drives me mad is because it's an institutional stupidity thing, and it's trigger snapping on quote-unquote empty guns. How many people do you know, or have you done it yourself, go through the whole process of ding, 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 magazine, rack, blah, 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 press the trigger, right? Pressing the trigger is not a part of the unloading process. Oh, yeah, it is. I was in the Army, and in the Army, they make you do this and derp, 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 and then press the trigger. Okay, here's what they taught you. They taught you to be an accident waiting to happen. That's what they taught you. Well, they wouldn't have taught it if it wasn't the right thing. Here's what I'm telling you. Pressing the trigger is not a part of the unloading process. I didn't say disassembly. I said unloading. All right? And when you do that, you're teaching your body to just reflexively snap the trigger without thinking. And that violates which rule, Jared?
Well, depends on which order you put them in, but putting your finger on the trigger.
Right. And until your sights are on the target, you made the conscious decision to fire.
Yep.
And you say, so if you remove the magazine, rack the slide, are you making the conscious decision? Are your sights on the target and you're making a conscious decision to fire? You're like, well, no, obviously not. Then get your daggum digit off of the freaking bang switch.
And what you could do, if you're one of the people that likes to, you want to depress the trigger after you unload your gun. It's fine. Do whatever you want. But use that opportunity as a way. Don't shake your head because I'm not done yet. Use that opportunity as another trigger press. Point your sights at the target. Actually do a deliberate trigger press.
Okay, but what target?
I did wherever they are.
Well, no,
if you're going to be dry firing the gun, treat it as if you're dry firing. If you're going to do that and you have to be the person that's unloading the gun and pulling the trigger, then treat it as if it is a dry fire shot. Follow the 4 universal safety rules and get another rep in of the trigger pull.
Okay, but what needs to be present? Something that'll absorb a bullet.
Yeah, that's why I just said follow the 4 universal safety rules. Treat it like you're dry firing and get another trigger press rep in. Because what you're doing then is you're actually teaching yourself, you're continuing to give yourself a good rep Whereas if you're trigger slapping, you're not. You're teaching yourself. You're confusing your body because you're doing different things with your muscles at different times.
I actually had a very, very experienced Army person question me on that, because I wrote an article and I said, if and when you're going to dry fire in your house, find a place that will, a section of the house that, will absorb a bullet, essentially, right?
Yes.
Whether it's a bookshelf full of hardback bound books, or a brick wall, or a concrete cinder block wall in your basement, or whatever. And this gentleman, I had a lot of respect for him, and he was a seasoned Army veteran and so forth. And he said, "Why are you telling people to do that?" He said, they're dry firing, so there's no ammo. They already know that. I said, yeah, but it's still a real gun. And I said, that's what you got to understand is, like, we'll go back to rule 1. Treat every gun as is always loaded all the time. You say, oh, well, it's okay, I unloaded it. That is the universal saying right before a loud bang and someone starts bleeding, is it's okay, I unloaded it. So if you're going to do that, yeah, Jared is right, and I've done it. I mean, I do that all the time. I actually unload my gun, clear it, put the ammo away, and I walk over and I think, and to this day, I think, okay, is where I'm, like, if I'm in this room, I know that right behind me is paneling and drywall and cinder block. I mean, would I feel like a douche if I fired a round into that? Probably. Would anyone be in jeopardy or danger if I fired a round through the paneling into the cinder block wall? No, not really. So, I mean, I'll think, okay, before I do this, if, and people hate it when I say this, but, like, if God hates you and there's a live round in that, was there any chance of somebody getting hurt on the other side of it?
God loves everybody.
That's right. God loves everybody. He doesn't love Nazis, so shut up. He doesn't love communists. So the universal safety rules, look, they apply in your home. If you don't understand what they are, you need to get some freaking training. And there's no way around that. But you have to be conscious and think, look, the rules apply in my bedroom when I'm getting dressed, undressed, and all that. And this whole thing about I was holstering the gun or I was unholstering the gun and it went off. It went off. The gun just went off, right? How many times do we see that in newspaper stories, Jared? Officer was holstering his gun and it went off. You're like, really? How did it went off? Well, his finger was on the trigger. Very rarely, like less than 1% of the time, is there a mechanical defect in the gun that causes it to discharge. 99.999% of the time, it's somebody did something they shouldn't have done, which is put their finger on the trigger and pull it when there's still rounds in it. Okay, don't do it. All right, moving on to the art of war. And I have to believe that Sun Tzu would approve of the universal firearm safety rules if there would have been firearms 2,000 years ago when he wrote this book.
Well, we've got Jonathan here from Facebook. He just left a comment. He's been listening for a while because he said booger hook off the bang switch. Like, you've been saying that for a while.
Your booger hook off of the bang switch.
Yep.
And there are many, we've discussed this before, but I want to hit on it real quick. If you go to your Amazon or Barnes & Noble, or you go anywhere where there are books, and you just type in Art of War or Sun Tzu or whatever, you're probably going to get anywhere from 3 to 4 to maybe a dozen or half a dozen at least different variations of this book. Many people have translated it. English professors, linguistics professors, Chinese history professors have translated this. And they all put their own spin on it. But Stephen F. Kaufman is actually a martial artist. He understands that the art of war is supposed to be about fighting, not about business or whatever. So when he wrote this, interpreted it, it was for the warrior. It was for someone who actually thought they may have to fight or understood that they may have to fight.
Do you know what's a really good general statement?
What is that?
Is that if you learn what you're doing with the mindset in play that it is for fighting, most of that stuff then translates into business or art or whatever, right? If you go into it when you're learning about tactics that could be used for fighting, but you're learning with the intention of using it in a business setting or something else, generally it cannot be transferred to a fighting scenario. So if you do this stuff and you pick up this Art of War book from Stephen Kaufman and you read it from a warrior's mindset, you can take a lot of that stuff and directly correlate it outside of the fighting mindset. However, it doesn't go backwards most of the time.
It doesn't go reversed, yeah. And like I said, this book is relatively thin. You look at it, you say, man, I was at the bookstore and there was an Art of War and it was like 1.5 inches thick. And like, what is up with that? Because they put a lot of filler in there. A lot of those books have, they have like Chinese history and what was going on in the, Ming dynasty or the Shang dynasty or whatever at the time and so forth. And what Kaufman did is he stripped all that out of there. He stripped out all the, ancient Chinese history or whatever, and he basically just kept the meat. And so in book 4, the beginning of book 4, it says, in ancient days, warriors made themselves unbeatable by constant practice. Constant practice. Think about that. Now, when we say practice, I believe what Kaufman is saying is he's probably combining the thought process of education, training, and practice. Now, obviously for our thing, we say that training is what happens under the watchful eye of a trained instructor, right, or of an instructor. And then practice is what you do after you have trained. Okay. But in ancient days, warriors made themselves unbeatable by constant practice. And he goes on to say, knowing they could never become invincible, their efforts enabled them to see the vulnerability of intended victims. So basically, they're enemies. They did not think in terms of beating the enemy by overwhelming him with boastful actions, but rather they saw the reality of extending their skills through the enemy, which they acknowledged was the same thing as physical combat. They were also aware of their own limitations. And Jared, that's something that that also translates over from the Book of Five Rings. And we talked about that. We've talked about this at length. How does the spirit of the thing reveal itself to you?
Through repetitions and doing it. Once you do it enough.
Doing it.
Yeah, you have to do it.
And say, people say, well, why? I've already done that. I don't need to do that anymore. I've encountered this. I can't even imagine the number of times throughout my lifetime where people will say, well, I don't need to go to that class because I already learned that. We would have people when I was in the doing the military training. We would have, and this doesn't apply to the 18 and 19-year-olds, but it would apply to, the Navy had the audacity to make officers and senior enlisted personnel go through our firearms training class, our expeditionary combat skills. And we would have people who would show up who had been in for 5 years or 8 years or 10 or more, and they would be like, harumph.
You better hand me a loaded mag.
I've already gone through firearms training, and I know this stuff. And why do I have to go through your class? And often we'd ask them, and when we do the beginning of the class, we would say, how many people who have gone through professional firearms training in the past? And they'd raise their hands, like, where did you go? What did you do? When was it? And so forth. And we had a guy that's like, I was with a unit, and we went through the HK Academy. And it was like, okay, well, when was that? was at the time, I was probably teaching it in 2008, 2009. He's like, in 1997. I'm like, okay, well, I'm glad for you, and I'm happy for you that you went to that in 1997. But it's 11 years later now, so let's go ahead and get out to the range and do some training, because we might actually learn something. And what Sun Tzu is acknowledging here is that and what we've said in the past is that the best instructors are the best students. If you want to know in the United States who a good instructor is, really the top 1% of firearms instructors in the United States actually are training junkies, I guess you could say. Or I am personally acquainted with several who will still go to and seek out other firearms instructors and go to their schools. You're like, what? Really? Because I thought when you got an instructor certificate to hang on your wall, that was it, man. You're like, I got a piece of paper with my name on it, and it says I are a firearms instructor. And so I don't have to go to more training. I'm good. Right? No, you're not. No, you're not. Think about your first firearms instructor training course like graduating from the 8th grade or whatever, right? And then think about your 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th. If you said to me, how many instructor development, instructor training classes have you been through? I really couldn't give you an answer because it's been a lot. More than 10.
More than a lot.
Yeah, more than 10. So your first instructor training class is like graduating from 8th grade and getting to go to high school. Okay, your 5th or 6th or 7th one is like working on your master's degree or your doctorate, And the best instructors are actually the guys that are out there training and practicing the most. They're not the ones who say, well, I got the patch. I got a T-shirt that says instructor on it, so I'm good. I don't need to do that anymore. Sun Tzu knew this thousands of years ago. And he goes on to say they constantly practiced knowing that there was no other way they could make the enemy vulnerable. Think about that. The enemy had to do that himself because the warlord knew how to win. Just because a warlord knew how to win does not mean that he did. But he did know the enemy had the same attitudes. And I've got something underlined here in this book. He said they understood that if invincibility existed, it lied in the attitude of the attack. And it says and then he goes on to properly defend the attitude. To properly defend, the attitude must be that of a thorough attack. To depend strictly upon defense means that there is not enough strength of purpose in your heart. And I want to talk about that real quick. That's what, and I have a note that says that is the failed strategy of defense. You cannot. It is not enough to defend or always be on the defense. What have we said about cover, Jared? All cover is what?
It's temporary.
Temporary. That's right. Cover is a defense. All right. If you put something between you and another person that will stop a bullet, that is cover. Not concealment. It's cover. Right? But all cover is temporary. Well, what do you mean, Paul? It's temporary. Well, eventually, a motivated attacker is either going to continue to hammer on that cover with gunfire until the cover is destroyed, and they can now shoot through it, or they're going to move. They're going to flank left or right, and they're going to continue to move until that cover has been defeated. So hiding behind cover continuously is not a strategy. All right? It's a tactic. It's not a strategy. Eventually, you have to go on the offensive. It is not enough to be defensive. Eventually, you have to go on the offense. And if you choose not to do that, if you choose to embrace cover, if you choose to live behind cover, if you choose defense as your strategy, you will eventually be defeated. That's just what's going to happen. Your enemy will eventually outflank your cover. Right? It's kind of like the guys in the castle. 500, 600 years ago, 1,000 years ago, you guys had a castle, right? It's a great castle. It's awesome, right? Best castle in the world. But when the enemy's outside, the king and his court and all the knights, they're like, hey, let's go to the center room and let's all have a feast, man, because the walls are thick and they're high and the enemy can't get to us, so just hang out. Have a feast, man. We'll party down, have some lute music, all that. No, what did they have to do? They had to get up on the walls. They had to shoot back because they knew that if they just left the enemy to his own devices, eventually, no matter how strong that cover was, it would be overwhelmed. And Sun Tzu understood that. He said that the defense is not an ultimate strategy. You have to have a thorough offensive attack plan. Wow. How far in are we? Are we good?
We've got to be probably 45 minutes, Zach. What do you think?
46 minutes and 8 seconds.
Oh, dang. I was
46 minutes and 8 seconds. Very good. So, and that's just book 4. All right. That's just book 4. So, if you take anything out of this, number 1, it says, even in ancient days, warriors made themselves unbeatable through constant practice. It's not enough to take one class. It's not enough. And the moment you say, I think I'm pretty good, or I'm good enough, or you're not. All right? Yeah. It's almost like Sun Tzu was a student of the gun. It's almost like he understood that you're a beginner once, but you're a student for life. Isn't it like that, Jared?
Yeah, it almost is. And Paul Alvarez here, he commented from Facebook. He says, Miyamoto Musashi. That's another one, the Book of Five Rings by Musashi. Stephen Kaufman actually did a translation of that as well. So if you're picking up The Art of War, we should probably do another Book of Five Rings book study.
Yeah, and those are both listed on the Patriot Bookshelf.
Yep, if you go to patriotbookshelf.com, you can pick up both of those. The Art of War by Sun Tzu and Book of Five Rings by Miyamoto Musashi. They're both really good books.
And beware, the Five Rings is the same thing. There's the Kaufman edition, and then there are other editions.
Yeah, just go to patriotbookshelf.com, and everything that we talk about here on the show, and it pertains to those books, those books are going to be on the patriotbookshelf.com, the correct editions.
Yeah, good reading. Hey, Zach, did we add Legion of Michael to that yet?
Probably. If not, I can do that sometime today or tomorrow.
Okay, cool. Just make sure that's in there. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for being a part of the Student of the Gun audience. Thank you for sharing this. Remember, this was free. It costs you nothing. So what I would suggest, if you'd like to pay it forward, if you're listening on an app right now, such as iHeartRadio, Spotify, iTunes, SoundCloud, whatever, there's a little box with an arrow in it. That's the share button. You tap that, and you can share it directly to your Instagram stories, to your Facebook stories. You can share it directly to a link. So, hey, if you like the show, if you enjoy it, you feel like you got something out of it, share it with somebody else. That is your price of admission today. All right, kids, we'll be back tomorrow with the grad program. If you'd like to be a part of the grad program, go to
getsotg.com. Super easy instructions there. There's a little video that gives you a sneak peek of what you're going to get. There's instructions on the page. We've got some reviews from current members. We started the grad program in like 2014, or I think 2014.
Yeah.
And we still have people to this day that joined in 2014 when we started the show.
Hey, yep.
Day one members. We've got some OG members that are actually quite a few. They're still with us, and we appreciate them for sure. That's been some awesome support from you guys, but it also tells you the quality of the community that is built in the grad program. There's people there from day one that are still there today, so the content and the community are definitely worth it.
Yes, indeed. All right, kids, like Sun Tzu said, remember, you're a beginner once.
You're a student for life.
We appreciate your reviews. If you haven't left a review or updated yours recently, head on over to Facebook, iTunes, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, or your favorite podcast player to voice your opinion. Don't forget to join us at the Student Lounge, a place for like-minded individuals to learn, connect, and support each other. No chicanery will be tolerated. Remember to check studentofthegun.com daily for new, free content and giveaways. Watch, listen, read, shop, and connect at studentofthegun.com. Are you a social butterfly? Connect with us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter for new content each and every day at Student of the Gun. Watch Student of the Gun TV and videos from our trusted partners on Roku, Apple TV, Amazon Fire TV, Chromecast, and even AirPlay. Go to studentofthegun.com for direct links, and remember, you're a beginner once, a student for life.